Welcome to Fully Booked, the bookish podcast where I'll chat about all things book and reading related. Whether you're a new or a pro reader, there's something for everyone to learn. I'm here to help you on your reading journey and find that next great read that will keep you fully booked. Hello, readers, and welcome to episode 29 of Fully Booked. I'm your host, Natalie, and today's episode we are going to be going over all the different book tracking apps and how you can use them to track your own reading. Now, I'm going to be honest, I feel like a lot of these sort of how-to podcast episode series that I've been making, a lot of the topics that I've been coming up with, I've been debating if I should even do them because, at least to me and where I am at the point in my reading journey right now, using all the different apps like Goodreads to track my reading, kind of organize some of my books, at least digitally, is kind of a given in my point. And it's just something that I honestly probably use on a daily basis, especially because I read pretty much every day. But honestly, I have realized that there are people who are at all different points in their journey, and some people might still be, at the very beginning, even in 2025. So I figured it was worth it to talk about, especially because I find there are always features that I'm finding out about, these different book tracking apps that I didn't know about, even though I have been using them now for a couple years. And actually, I guess a little story I want to share about when I was first starting my reading journey back in 2021, but also prior to that, is that the way I actually used to organize all the books that I wanted to buy or read was that I literally just kept a note on my iPhone. And so every time I would go to Indigo or to the library, just browsing books, seeing if there was anything I was interested in picking up, I would literally just pull open this note on my iPhone where I just kept all of the book titles listed. And that was literally all I had in terms of organizing my books. And I would just reference that list anytime, I ended up buying a book or starting a book. And that was the extent of my book tracking and organization, which feels, at least to me, kind of archaic now. Looking back and as I speak about it, but that is what I had going on. And it's funny because I do know a couple people who also used to do that. They would just keep a note on their iPhone, and that was the only way they would track their books. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think that is what I used to track my books all the way through university. When I did have the time to pick up books and read, I would just reference that list. And I think I honestly used that method up until 2020 or 2021, and 2021 is finally when I barely started hopping back on to Goodreads, because another funny note, I believe I activated my Goodreads account back in 2014, which I actually know because I was looking at my Goodreads profile page the other day, and it says the date, the year when you joined Goodreads, and it said 2014. So that's apparently when I actually activated my account, but I didn't actually start using it until, I want to say, 2021. I think I read, actually, basically mostly Emily Henry books. I picked up, maybe one or two other books that year, and I logged them into Goodreads for some reason. And then at the end of 2022, when I really started reading again, that's when I started logging all my books. I didn't even rate or review books, but I at least just kept track of what books I had completed in the year. And I guess my journey, just kept continuing from them. Just kept continuing from there. And now here we are in 2025, and I have much higher level organization of, what books I want to read and my overall book tracking. So yes, that is what we're going to go over today. I do want to know, I'm going to go over only apps that I've had experience with or am currently using, which is going to be Goodreads, Storygraph, and Fable. I know there are a couple other apps I've seen out there, like Bookmori, I think there's one called Bookly, and whatnot, but I haven't personally used those myself. And yeah, so I'm just going to go over the 3 that I have been using basically for the past, 2 to 3 years or so. Or Fable, I've only been using for a couple of months. But yes, that's what I'll go over. And I'm also going to show you guys some of my, I guess, sort of manual setups that I have. Because I have some notes set up in Evernote where I use to keep even more track of my books in certain series and whatnot. And it's funny, that's something I actually started pretty recently. And, to some people, it might seem a little, I don't know, too organized and it kind of stresses them out. So, definitely don't feel the pressure that you need to do all of this organization to track your reading and your books. This is just like notes and systems that I've come up with that really work for me now because I'm the type of person that if I don't track something at all, if I don't use, more metric systems or something, then I just won't meet my goals or I won't read like specific books or start series and all that stuff. So that's why personally I've set up all these like extra notes in addition to like my book tracking apps, but don't feel the need to do that. Like if you are just starting out and you just want to get on Goodreads and start tracking what books you've read, that is great and better than nothing and will definitely, just help you keep a log for your reading journey. But before we get into all the different book tracking apps and how you can use them, I want to do a quick Dog of the Day as another fun intro for the start of this video episode. So, starting off with drink, I am very plain Jane today and I literally just have a black coffee. I don't know if you can see that. And also, I only have a little bit of coffee left because this is actually the 3rd take that I've done now for this intro because I'm having some technical issues, so to speak, right now. So anyways, this better work this time. And then moving along to my outfit, that's also keeping it pretty simple today because I'm just recording from home. And I guess if you're on video, you'll see. Otherwise, I will try to describe this the best that I can. But I'm basically wearing just a special collection Uniqlo shirt. It was a collection of shirts that were basically supposed to have, pictures, images representing, I forget if it's either Toronto or Canada, one of those. But the one that I have basically just says Toronto Cruisin', and there is a raccoon on it riding the TTC streetcar, which I thought was pretty cute. And then I'll stand up to show off my pants quickly. I'm literally just wearing this light heather gray sweat fleece balloon pant, I believe, and I got that from Aritzia, I think back in January. Okay, and then last for book of the day, reading has been a little bit chaotic, especially as of yesterday, because yesterday I finished the arc for My Friends by Friedrich Bachmann, which was amazing, by the way, and you should definitely go stalk my Goodreads if you want to see my thoughts and review on that one, because I'm not going to talk about it in this episode, obviously. And then other than that, I also ended up DNFing Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. I got about halfway into that book, and then for some reason, I just wasn't feeling the story and the characters and the world at all anymore, and I didn't feel like continuing, and I highly doubt that I'm gonna go back to that book, if I'm gonna be honest, which was a little unfortunate. But anyways, other than that, I also ended up starting Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I got about 25% of the way into the book so far, and I'm actually liking it. It's pretty decent. Her writing, as always, is very good. I like the dynamic and interactions so far between our two mains. And sorry, I'm trying to think of what else I was going to say about this book. But yeah, overall, it's going well. Okay, everyone, sorry about all the changes, but I was having so many technical difficulties with my recording software on my MacBook today that I ended up just scrapping that, and I'm honestly just recording on my phone right now. I even changed my mic setup because I couldn't really figure out the optimal way to connect my Blue Yeti microphone and to be able to record on my phone. So switch the whole mic setup and everything. So yeah, I apologize for the change in camera angle and quality, maybe sound quality too. Might sound different right now. But yeah, that's just how it is sometimes, and I'm just keeping it a little real on this episode too, the woes of being a video podcaster and what you have to go through. But yeah, I didn't want to have to play around too much with my recording software to be able to, I don't know, record and export long files and clips. So we're just going to work with this for now. Okay, so with that, let's actually dive into, I guess, the first book tracking app that I want to talk about, which is none other than Goodreads. Now, most of you guys, even if you're not using it right now, you probably know about Goodreads if, yeah, I don't know, you're in the online book community or you have other friends that read as well, because let's be honest, Goodreads is, from what I know, it's the OG of, yeah, book tracking and, yeah, digital book, I guess, collections, so to speak. And I have to say, despite, I don't know, some of the user interface and whatnot, Goodreads is still a fairly good book tracking app, and it's very functional. I have to admit, I feel like the first 1 year or two that I was on Goodreads, I really didn't utilize enough of the features enough, and I basically only used it to actually, yeah, mark books that I had read. But now I'm pretty good about, I feel like, logging on fairly regularly to Goodreads and marking books that I'm currently reading, books that I want to read. I know one thing that I literally just started using recently was the status updates, because I feel like I think last year, maybe the year before, when I was in the middle of a book, I would use status updates to mark, yeah, just percentage wise where I was in the book up until I finished the book. But lately I've been finding it's been pretty fun, at least for like certain types of books, to log on. And when I mark a status update, I also put like little notes in. I know some people really like Goodreads because of those status updates, and they can like follow along with their friends and see where they are in a book. And what they're feeling and experiencing at a certain point in the book. So that is one feature that's pretty cool, I will say, about Goodreads compared to the other apps, because I know that you can't really do status updates like with notes on Storygraph or Fable, from what I can tell, at least. Yeah, you can only mark your percentage status update in those apps. I don't know if any other book tracking apps also have like more of a personalized status update. But yeah, that is one thing about Goodreads that's kind of cool. And I don't know, I guess if you're a very reactive reader, then it's kind of cool to mark those status update notes. And yeah, actually, personally, I will admit, I don't really check my friends' status updates that often and like see what they're saying about certain parts of certain books. But I don't know if that's a feature, something you enjoy more. I guess if, yeah, you enjoy more social features and whatnot of book tracking apps, then that's something you might like, at least a Goodreads. And I don't know how long they've been doing this, but I do like the integration of the reading challenge in Goodreads. It's definitely a fun aspect to, yeah, keep track, see how far you are into your reading challenge for the year. Actually, currently, I will say for me, I think I'm doing fairly well. I've read 23 out of 80 books, which apparently is 29% of my reading goal. And it says I'm 9 books ahead of schedule. Yeah, actually, that's one thing I like too. It shows you like if you're right on track or if you're ahead of schedule on Goodreads for the yearly reading challenge. So that's pretty cool. But one complaint that I do have about the reading challenge is that I don't know if you guys have noticed if you're already on Goodreads, but up until last year, for the reading challenge, you were able to see it on your profile page and your friends' profile pages. So if you went onto your friends' profile page, you could see what they'd set their reading challenge for, like number-wise, and how far along they were into it. And yeah, I think if that's something that showed, even, I don't know, if you went onto like your friends list, you could, yeah, like see the progress. Or maybe it was in the reading challenge tab. I can't remember now since they took it away. But yeah, that was going to be my point, is that they, as of this year, they took away being able to see your friends' reading challenge, like in their progress on their page when you go, which I do not like, because let's be honest a little here, guys. We, for those of us who read maybe a bit more, or even if you don't read that much, a little healthy competition is never a bad thing. And, seeing your friends' reading challenge and how much they've already read so far, and, if you're keeping pace with them or if you're behind or ahead, is always gives a little fuel to the fire and help you along in your own reading journey, maybe especially if you're in a slump. Yeah, anyways, I just liked that feature before and being able to see how many books my friends have read. Yeah, in addition to, the specific books that they're reading and picking up. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed that they took that away, and I don't even know why. I've searched Reddit and online, I don't know, a bunch of times for like an answer, and nobody seems to know why they took this feature away. So I guess, I don't know, that's like a recent con of Goodreads, and something that they took away that used to be fun to see. But otherwise, I feel like I don't have that much to say about Goodreads. It's like once you create an account and you go on to Goodreads, it's pretty, self-explanatory, like most apps are nowadays, to like figure out how to use. Maybe the only other thing I'll mention is like using shelves or tags on Goodreads is a pretty good way to like further organize your TBR or books that you've read. I think I'm trying to remember back now, to be honest. I can't remember when I started using the bookshelves and tags. Maybe back in 2023, I want to say, is when I started utilizing. And I think it is a really good feature to take advantage of. I do admit, I know a lot of people who honestly don't really make tags and bookshelves, and they just use the default shelves that Goodreads gives of like, yeah, your want to read, you're currently reading, and your read shelf. But yeah, I find making tags is very useful, especially because I like to keep track of books that I want to buy or that I already own. I guess in terms of my TBR, because I don't go on big book hauls and buy a lot of books at a time. And I don't know, if I am picking up books, it's I guess through free borrowing methods like Libby, the library, or getting them for like a cheaper discounted price or something, like getting them secondhand or swapping with people, or something, or little free libraries. So yeah, I like to keep track of what books I already own or I know that I could get a copy of somewhere, so that when it comes time for me to pick up that book, I know how I will get access to it. I just hate knowing that there is a book that I want to pick up very soon, like pick up and start reading, but I don't actually own it yet. So I have to figure out where I'm going to get it. If I'm going to get it from the library, or if I've exhausted my options, do I just have to go and buy a whole brand new copy of it? Because, obviously the newer the book is, the harder it's going to be to find it on, one of those borrowing methods or for discounted price if it's just being released. So yeah, I like to keep track of that. I will switch over to my screen recording app in a little bit and show you guys, I guess, my setup and all the shelves that I have to further organize my books, because yeah, I realized that this is something that not everyone does in Goodreads. I think I actually got inspiration from Carter Sullivan, was the one who further inspired me to really further separate my books out, because I did have like start out with creating genre shelves and like separating my books by all the different genres that I want to read or have read. But I also created shelves to, again, mark which books I already own, mark if they're on Kindle Unlimited or other different platforms so I can get access. And so I actually got inspiration from her to further organize my books and whatnot. So anyways, yes, shelves and tags, very useful feature. Technically, I think these features, honestly, they also exist on Storygraph and Fable if you're going to use one of those as well. But I think the reason I still wanted to talk about Goodreads is that basically most of the other book apps kind of rely on Goodreads. Or not rely, but like you can import your Goodreads data and libraries into the other apps. So honestly, if you're going to use another app like Storygraph or Fable or whatever, you probably should just set up a Goodreads account as well, because it's so much easier to be able to import your Goodreads library when you're creating accounts for those apps versus having to do it manually yourself. Because yeah, like when I first set up my Goodreads and I had to do this all manually, like log all the books that I read and want to read, it took me probably hours to do that, because I'm a big reader. There are still a lot of books I want to read, so obviously it took me a lot of time to log probably hundreds of books, I want to say, at one point when I set up my Goodreads. But even if you're just starting and having to set up your Goodreads, it's definitely worth the time and effort, because it'll save you time and effort later on, and again, if you want to join these other book apps. Okay, and I just wanted to add maybe 2 more quick notes before we move on to the next book tracking app, and that I think another big con of Goodreads that I've heard other people mention as well from using it is that, like, visually, the interface, I guess on mobile and desktop, it kind of looks like it is stuck in the early 2000s, and it's not visually appealing, especially to, I guess, the female population, those of us who are reading. Males might not care about this as much, but most of us females, we like very visually, aesthetically pleasing looking apps and software if we're going to be tracking our books, and Goodreads is kind of just not it. And I'm not sure why they haven't changed the visual interface of Goodreads since they started it, but it's kind of just stuck as it is for now. But otherwise, again, it's still functional. It's just not going to be visually pleasing to some of us. And then the final note that I want to add about Goodreads is that the odd time I find that using the mobile app or even the desktop setup is a little glitchy at times, and I don't know, pages and stuff doesn't load, and I also don't really like, the filter options and like setups and whatnot on Goodreads compared to having used a couple different other book tracking apps now. So I don't know if that's something, again, that Goodreads is gonna work on in the future, on improving some of these things that come up, but we'll see. I'm still gonna continue using Goodreads, obviously, because it is, my OG at this point. Again, it's the OG for a lot of people. Lots of people are on Goodreads, so yes. Let's keep moving along. So the next book tracking app that I wanted to touch on is Storygraph. Now, I have to admit, I don't have a lot to comment on as of lately for Storygraph, because if you guys remember or have listened to, I think it was my January reading wrap up, or maybe it was what I read in 2024. Again, I can't remember now, but one of those episodes, I did mention that I was making the move to stop using Storygraph this year. I don't know if this is going to sound bad, but low-key, once again, the visual aesthetic interface of Storygraph is just not that pleasing, and I was feeling overwhelmed as well using 3 different book tracking apps last year. It was definitely fun, and I have to admit, sometimes I do miss Storygraph because of some of the features that it does have that Goodreads and Fable don't have, but overall, it's definitely been much better and easier to manage only using Goodreads and Fable. But yes, I will touch on Storygraph a little bit right now. So Storygraph, again, it's fairly intuitive to use, I would say, especially if you already have a Goodreads account, because when you go to set up your Storygraph account, you can link and import your Goodreads libraries and data into Storygraph, and the import time does not take long at all. I'm pretty sure for Storygraph to import your Goodreads. So again, definitely worth it to have the Goodreads account in addition to whatever else you're gonna use. I guess that's a pro about Storygraph, is linking it to Goodreads. Other than that, a lot of the shelving options and whatnot, it's pretty similar to Goodreads. Like, you'll have your account, your profile, and then you'll have your currently reading shelf. You can have a want to read shelf and a read shelf. You also do have the option to make tags on Storygraph. I feel like I didn't utilize this all the time though. on Storygraph for some reason compared to Goodreads, and I don't really have a good explanation why, but I just didn't end up utilizing shelves that much on Storygraph. I think the biggest notes I have about Storygraph is that I like the status updates that you get on Storygraph. I feel like it's fairly easy to mark books, especially mark books that you DNF, is what I wanted to say. Because actually, currently, I guess this is going back to Goodreads, but another con of Goodreads, you can't mark books as DNF. I'm not sure that's, again, why they haven't added that into Goodreads. But yeah, I think that was one thing I liked when I first started using Storygraph is if I had books that I didn't end up finishing, you can easily mark what date you stopped reading. You can put what percentage you stopped, and you can put a note as to why you stopped reading the book and have that noted. And that was pretty cool. That was also helpful for me when, I guess when I first started the podcast last year, and if I had books I DNF'd and like maybe I want to talk about it at some point, to go and look back and see what notes I wrote and why I stopped reading the book. Because if you guys haven't noticed, I have a bit of a bad memory, and for me, if I don't write things down, keep track, I will not remember my reasoning and train of thought for why I didn't do something. So yeah, any apps that let me write notes and just very, very much keep track of all of my books down to like small details is a win for me. If you have a better memory than me, then this might seem like something that's not that important to you. But for me, being able to take notes and things like that is a pretty good feature. And I guess honestly the biggest pro and coolest feature about Storygraph and why a lot of people like using it is the stats tab or section, which I actually have my Storygraph account pulled up in front of me right now to reference. But yeah, the reading stats section of Storygraph is probably the coolest thing about it, and it gives you so many stats. You can look at by month or by year, and you just use the markdown menu options, and it's pretty cool because you can see the number of books you've read, you can see the number of pages, how many hours you read. It shows you average time it takes you to finish a book, so whether within the year or if you're filtering by month. It even shows different categories in terms of mood. It shows by pace. I think you can mark books that you've read on audio, so then it'll also keep track of how long the average audiobook you were reading throughout the month or year, fiction versus nonfiction. There's a bar graph for genres. I'm literally just listing off going down the page right now because there's so much. Basically there's a lot in the stats section in terms of numbers, little bar graphs and pie charts. I guess if you're really into numbers and stats, then this will be something that's very cool to you, which is personally why I enjoyed using Storygraph. And it'll also show the average star rating per month or for the year. And one thing I have to admit I didn't realize until a little bit later on using Storygraph is that you actually can make a reading wrap up per month or per year. So I guess at the end of each month you have the option to pull up a generated monthly wrap up graphic. The only thing is that, in my opinion, the monthly wrap-up graphic that Storygraph generates for you is, once again, not very visually pleasing. And maybe you have options if you use the Plus plan, because if you don't know, you actually can, I think, get access to a paid version of Storygraph, which has more customizable features. But if you are on the free version of Storygraph, then you are limited to the generalized graphics and basic features. So that is a little bit of a bummer. The wrap-ups on Storygraph are personally not very pleasing, and I would rather honestly just make my own in that case than use the ones that they generate. So that is one con. But I will say, between Storygraph and the other book tracking apps, stats is a plus. I find that the filter options too, in terms of your stats tab, but then also if you go into your different shelves, on your profile is much better than Goodreads at the least. Like you can easily like go into a shelf or your read and filter by month, by year, and see how much you read. Also within your list, you can see within your DNFs. Actually, I'm gonna pull. Sorry, I'm gonna look it up. Oh, I don't know why. Sorry, I was gonna try to pull up my list for a second. Okay, never mind that. The page seems to be frozen. But yeah, I was gonna pull up my list just to check how the different filter options work. But yes, they are there if you are gonna utilize Storygraph. And otherwise, I don't have too much to say. I feel like, I guess I'll add the community feature and tabs in Storygraph. It doesn't seem as intuitive and as highly used as Goodreads and Fable, for instance. And I'm not really sure why. Yeah, people don't really like add people as friends and like whatnot on Storygraph, but I don't know. I feel like they just kind of became known for like the stats feature, and that was mostly it. And people just kind of forgot about the community section. But there is community and like social features on Storygraph as well. But I personally did not utilize them while I was on Storygraph. So I guess you will have to look into that a bit yourself if you do end up signing up for Storygraph. But yeah, that is all I have to say about that app. Okay, and with that, finally, let's talk about one of the newer book tracking apps, which is Fable. Now, if I were to describe Fable to someone, I feel like it's as if someone took and redesigned Goodreads for the Gen Z / alpha crowd. That is how I would describe it. I just feel like there are a lot of similar features again to Goodreads and also Storygraph on Fable, but they also added a lot of newer and sort of cooler features, which again probably appeal a lot to the younger demographic. I guess the biggest pro that I'll start out with for Fable is that it is very, very visually and aesthetically pleasing. I just feel like for some reason the color themes and I don't know, the way they design the interface to look for Fable, it just looks very cool, very modern. So yeah, if you care about visuals like a lot of us do who read books seem to, then I think you'll definitely like Fable a lot. And I feel like Fable also feels like the most social app, which is weird because there are like the friend and community tabs and groups in Goodreads and Storygraph. But Fable, I feel like maybe they just did a really good job advertising the social features within their app, especially the clubs. I think the coolest thing about Fable is being able to create your own online book clubs, which is cool because if you want to read if you want to read with people all over the world, you want to be reading the same book at one time, get to talk about it, and just have a very big buddy reading group set up, then it's very easy because anyone can create a book club on Fable and make yourself the admin. I guess what's also cool about Fable is that you actually can purchase ebooks on their platform as well and read within the app. I guess if you don't have an e-reader, maybe this might be a plus for you. Personally, I don't really like having to read within most platform apps, and I would rather like have an EPUB or ebook on my Kindle if I'm going to read it that way. But if you like stuff like that integrated into your book tracking apps, then that's another plus. I guess that's pretty cool because again, if it's in the app, you can easily go in, annotate, and then put those annotations and stuff within the book club as well and share with whoever you're reading with. So that's why I'm saying Fable definitely has a lot of cool and new features that Goodreads and Storygraph just, haven't necessarily taken advantage of creating for their users. So the book clubs is pretty cool. In addition to books, you can also mark, I think, TV shows. Actually, I forget if it's just TV shows or if it's also movies. But you can mark TV shows that you're watching as well. And you can have the whole sort of same shelving setup of TV shows you want to watch, you're currently watching, and that you've already completed. Which I don't know. I guess if you're into TV shows, that's also cool. And consequently, you can also create, I guess, TV show clubs, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So like if there's a certain show that you're watching and you want to talk about with other people, find people to commune with over that, then you can also create a club for that on Fable as well. So as you can see, lots of cool features. I feel like the posting features and reviews also feel a lot more modern compared to, again, Goodreads and Storygraph, and the way you can like easily react and comment on people's posts and reviews. It definitely feels like way more of a social app than a book tracking app at times, I guess, because of all these features. But if you want an app like that has more social features, then you're gonna love Fable. And then the other great pro about Fable that I will add is I think all the monthly wrap up and some of the stats features that they have are actually pretty cool. So for monthly wrap up, once you get to, I think it might be either the last day of the month or like the very first day of the next month, you are able to generate a monthly wrap up. And for now, I will say the customizable features are a little limited. Like there's not that many color schemes and themes and like different like stickers and stuff to choose from when you are customizing your monthly wrap up. But it is still pretty cool to be able to make your own, because you can kind of at least you can customize it obviously way more than you can with the Storygraph monthly wrap up, and they just look really cute. They're also very optimized for mobile use and sharing. So if you want to share, for example, on your Instagram story, your monthly wrap up, it's easy to literally just create and then you can just download it, or you can instantly share from the Fable app to whatever social media app platform that you choose. The monthly wrap up feature on Fable is probably the coolest and again most visually pleasing for those of us that care. And then otherwise stats I will say is pretty cool, but the biggest con about the stats on Fable is that it only seems to go or like filter by year. So when you go on your stats, like tab on your profile page, you can only see number of books like per year. You can also see reading streaks and genres and average star rating, as well as most read offers. It's all done by year, and there is no way to filter by month. So that's one thing again I do miss about Storygraph, because sometimes I want to see by month, especially maybe for me because I do have a podcast, a platform where I'm sharing every month about what I'm reading and tracking monthly reading stats. I want to be able to see more easily. So ever since I stopped using Storygraph, it's been a little bit challenging because I find that I have to track it on my own somehow. And I don't know, sometimes I low-key just forget, what genres I read in the month or like something like that. And I have to like manually track through like my Fable or my Goodreads list to get those stats and kind of make a note for myself. So I do wish they had monthly stats more on Fable, but it is still cool, obviously, to see by year. And if you like to do any yearly wrap-ups, then that is always good to be able to utilize. And then one other feature I'm going to touch on, and actually, by the way, before I go into this feature, I just wanted to add that I was going to screen record my Fable on my desktop to show you guys what I have going on there. But one thing I will say is that Fable does seem to be highly optimized for mobile app use. And the desktop interface, it does exist and you can log onto your account on your desktop, but it seems to be very laggy at times and not optimized. And I'm not really sure why that is. I'm not sure if they're going to improve that in the future, but that is one thing to note, that Fable, you probably will mostly have to utilize the mobile app if you are going to make an account for it, which could be a little bit of a con, because personally I like to keep my Goodreads, for example, open on my desktop and use my mobile app when I'm tracking my reading. Sometimes I'm doing work on my computer and I want to check something. Other times I'm if I'm reading on the couch or like something, then I just want to be on my phone. But yeah, it's nice to be able to go back and use both. But for Fable, I find that I pretty much can't use the desktop interface because it's laggy for some reason. So yeah, that could be a con if you don't want to have an app that you can only use on your phone. But yeah, otherwise, I did make a quick screen recording on my phone, just going through the different homepage, profile pages, stats, and even my review section on my page. So you can kind of see what it looks like if you haven't checked out Fable for yourself yet. So I'll probably put that up and have that going for a bit as I continue talking here. But yes, the one other cool feature of Fable, I will say, is the streak count, which I guess, again, if you're a metrics person in terms of, I don't know, measuring your reading or your goals, then you'll probably really like this because basically every day, I guess, that you log on to Fable, you mark on your, I guess it's on your homepage that you read a certain book, and you can mark your percentage and whatnot. It'll keep track of that in Fable each day that you've read and show you, your longest streak, how long you've been reading. So you can see like, oh, you've been reading 7 days in a row. You've been reading like 3 weeks in a row, however long you keep up your streak. So that's pretty cool. And the other coolest thing, which I think they added recently, if I'm not mistaken, is that they actually have now added the option to edit your streak log as well, which I think is done through your homepage. So let's say you had a week long or longer streak going and you accidentally forgot to log a day that you did read a book, then you can actually go in, edit the streak log, and go into that specific day and mark whatever books you read. I think the only thing is that you can only edit if you read. I don't think you can edit like percentage updates. Whatever you read up to on that day. So I guess you have to go in and manually add that afterwards in your homepage and like the books that it'll show you're currently reading. But yeah, that's something definitely cool because I know that I liked seeing the reading streaks when I started using Fable last year, but I hated whenever I would have a day that I know I read, but I literally just forgot to log on to Fable and log it in. So being able to go back and retroactively label and edit your reading streak is definitely a good feature because, sometimes you just forget to go in and log. But yes, I guess with that is Fable. Now I'm going to move on to some screen recordings that I made of my Goodreads and my Evernote notes. And show you guys how I track all my books on those platforms. Hey readers, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far, and hear me out before you hit skip. I'm so grateful for all my listeners who are with me on this reading journey, and I'd like to ask that if you haven't yet, please leave a rating and review as it helps others find the podcast. Also, please consider supporting the podcast financially as it helps me bring you more exciting content, and you'll get some extras like bonus and subscriber-only episodes, early access to new episodes, and much more. The link to donate will be in the show notes below, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/fullybookedpod. Thank you so much again for choosing to listen to Fully Booked, and now back to the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to my Goodreads page. Now, I'm going to do my best to try to walk you guys through all these different shelves and stuff I have set up. But yeah, just a note, I am not going to go through every single tab and feature in Goodreads because this episode is specifically on, using these apps in terms of, I don't know, just tracking your reading and whatnot. And obviously not necessarily on all the social and other features that they might contain. So I'm mainly just going to be showing you this My Books page and what I have going on here, which if you can't already tell, there's a lot going on here. Just wanted to show you guys. Obviously I have, as you can see, a large number of my own tags that I have created. I think they're referred to as tags, and there's actually a difference between tags and shelves when I was looking around on Goodreads earlier today. And so apparently you can create your own tags, and then any book can have multiple tags. But if you put a book on apparently what is a shelf, you can only put that book on that one shelf, and not on any others. I don't know if that's separate from, different from the default bookshelves of read, currently reading, and want to read that Goodreads has said. I have no clue because I apparently have only been using the tags up until now to kind of filter, organize, and mark my books on Goodreads. So yeah, yeah. As you can tell, I have various different sort of genres and subgenres that I've created on my Goodreads to differentiate between all my different books. You'll also probably notice that I have some that say, like for example, already own. So any books that I already own, whether it's physical, I have it on ebook, or I guess if I have the audiobook, then I put it on this shelf so I can make a note that, yeah, when the time comes, I don't know when I want to read it, or if I'm considering putting it, I guess on an upcoming TBR, I can check very easily if I already own it, or do I need to go buy it or borrow it from the library, or whatever I want to do. And then I also have, I guess, already own is then broken down into other tags here. So for example, oh yeah, I have an Everend tag because you guys have heard me mention multiple times by now, I have a subscription to the Everend platform where you can get tons of ebooks, tons of audiobooks. You can also get podcasts, and other types of media on there as well. But yeah, I have books that are marked Everend so that I know if it's available on Everend. Then I can just go look on that platform when I want to read the book. I have books marked Kindle Unlimited for ones that are available on that platform. I guess random note here, I'm a person that I don't like to have too many subscriptions at one time, especially if I'm not utilizing it every single day or, enough times in the month. And I've been finding that I'm not reading that many books on Kindle Unlimited nowadays. I feel like for a little bit last year, I was still consuming a lot of books that happened to be on Kindle Unlimited. So, if I was reading 2-3 books a month that were on Kindle Unlimited, it felt worth it to have the subscription. But yeah, after a while, I wasn't really utilizing it. So I canceled my subscription. But I feel like if there's enough books in one period of time that I would want to read that are on Kindle Unlimited, then I get a subscription just temporarily again, maybe just for a couple months because, you guys know stuff is expensive nowadays and expenses add up. And I think Kindle Unlimited, it's like $11 or $12 with tax now in Canada. I want to say, maybe $11. And if you think about it, if you're paying for that every month of the year, that can add up and that could go towards a different subscription or, other expenses and whatnot. At least, I guess that's always my thinking. So yeah, I have books marked Kindle Unlimited, so I don't have to have it all year round. But yeah, other than that, like I said, just, I guess a lot of various genres. Oh, it's funny. I literally have one book marked only Audible because I don't know if you guys have noticed for audiobooks that, yes, you can get some from the library, whether Libby or Hoopla. There's other, audiobook resources online where you can find them, but there are a couple select titles where the audiobook will only be available on on Audible. Which I found to be true because when I've searched for those titles that say only on Audible, and I've searched for them at the library, on Hoopla, on I think there's another platform called audiobooks.com that I've used in the past too, and it will not be available. Truly, you can only get this title on Audible. So, yeah, I feel like for books that I really, really want to read on audio, I just wanted to start marking those for myself so I know that if it's only on Audible, then I need to get a subscription. That's another one that Audible is like kind of an on or off subscription for me. Right now, I do have Audible, and I plan on keeping it for maybe about 1 or 2 more months. But basically, once I run through some of my existing racked up credits that I have right now, I'm going to cancel it again because, I don't know, for me, I just don't consume as many audiobooks compared to other people, and I don't feel like I really need to have the platform available to me on a regular basis. So that's that. Yeah, I don't have many books marked only Audible because I'm just not, again, I'm not reading that many audiobooks compared to like my regular reading. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And people probably think this looks crazy to have, I think I counted or I checked on my Goodreads app and it shows I have 29 tags in total here that I used to tag all my Goodreads books. But honestly, it's been working so well for me to have books with all the different tags. I don't know. It's just nice to have it like separated too by genre and not just have one long congruous, or I don't know, just yeah, continuous list of books going on here, because I feel like if I only had the default Goodreads bookshelves, I'd kind of go crazy like trying to find a book. I also feel like I will say the filter options are not that great on Goodreads. In general, like actually if I go to all, actually I don't even know how to do filtering on wow, apparently I'm so lame. Because I know you can filter on the mobile app, but yeah, the filter I get features, it's not very good on desktop. So that's something to be improved for sure. But yeah, I guess that's basically all that I have going on Goodreads. I'm not gonna go through every single shelf and show you guys necessarily what is on there, because I mean, yes, some, as you can see, some only have a couple books, less than 10, and some have like over 50 books. So yeah, we're not going to go through my whole, like, I guess Goodreads TBR basically, because that would take an eternity. But yeah, I feel like there are probably other features of Goodreads that I'm not fully utilizing, stuff that I could show you guys. But that, in terms of my reading tracking, this is pretty much my Goodreads. All right, so I'm just going to literally dive straight in right now and show you guys what is probably the most important and highly used page within my Evernotes in terms of tracking my reading, and that is my monthly and seasonal TBRs. Again, like I just noted, other people probably have way better, more organized ways of writing out their TBRs and tracking as each month goes, but this is just what I have going on for now, and I will probably change it up as time goes on, even as this year goes on, depending on how much and when I'm reading, but this is just what I have for now. So, as you can basically see already, I have a simple setup where I don't even use tables for, I guess, my TBR tracking. I literally just keep basically a checklist of every single book that I want to read over the next couple months. So as you can see, first at the top of this page, I have a themed TBR section, and this is basically books that I want to read over the next coming months for specific podcast episode ideas, which I'm not going to say what those are for these books that I currently have showing here, because you guys will find that out sooner or later. But yeah, these are a couple books that I have written down. I have read by dates so that I'm keeping up to speed, and I complete them with enough time to also be able to record and edit the episode and all of that. And I have them highlighted in certain colors so that I can track them within my monthly TBRs, because I also put like specific themed or seasonal TBRs within my monthly TBRs to actually make sure that I'm going to read them within, again, a certain season or specific timeline that I might have. But yeah, otherwise, if we move down the page, I basically just have my monthly TBR setups. It's funny, I still have my February TBR on here because I'm actually, as we speak, still currently reading The Great Alone. And people who are Kristen Hanna fans are probably going to kill me right now. Like, why have you not finished this book yet? Or actually, maybe I'll be done the book by the time this episode goes up. But at the time I'm recording this, I'm still reading The Great Alone, and I'm not that far in. I promise you guys, it will get finished. It will get read. I always get there sooner or later. You just got to give me time sometimes. Let's actually move into a month so you can see what I actually have written down each month. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen my monthly hopeful posts. obviously I talk about them in my monthly reading wrap-ups as well. But yeah, you guys might know by now that I've been writing down 6 books that I hope to read each month. So obviously, correspondingly, I put each of those 6 books is the main crux of my monthly TBRs right now. So yeah, my March TBR hopefuls will already be up by now. So you guys have already seen these 6 books that I want to read. And I also just keep an extra section within each month. Because as you guys know by now, obviously with a podcast as well, but just in general, I read a lot. So it's usually pretty likely that I'm going to read more than 6 books a month. Unless I'm having an extremely busy month or, some emergencies or circumstances arise. But yeah, it's highly likely that I'm going to read 6 months. It's pretty rare, I think, that I've had a month where I've only read 4 or 5 books or something like that. So I keep an extra section just to keep track of books that, additional books that I want to read throughout the month. And I'm going to have to edit March because so far all I have, as you guys can see, is A Court of Mist and Fury, which I can't get to because I did not reread A Court of Thorns and Roses yet. So I will probably have to note some different ones there. But yeah, that's a section I will keep. I feel like for my extras section on average, I usually, let's be honest, if I'm ambitious, I might put 5+ books. Yeah, like 4 to 5 books, I would say, on my extras. If I'm being modest and more realistic with my goals for the month, then probably only 2 to 3 books are going to come up in this extra section. But yes, I keep it there just to keep track. Also because the extra section kind of allows me to, it's kind of like my mood reading section, I guess I would call it. Like it's books that I'm more, they're not necessarily on theme with like the season or something going on in that certain month. Like for example, International Women's Day or Women's Month is March, I believe. I can't remember if it's day or month right now. Sorry, excuse me. But that's the reason, for example, I have Educated is on my March TBR. So I do definitely have books that are kind of, on a certain theme for most months so far, depending on what I can think of or remember is going on. But anyways, trying to move along here a bit. Okay, so again, seasonal TBRs. So the first one that I have up here is my spring TBR, which you guys will already have seen this by now because last week's episode should have been my spring TBR. Or if you only follow me on Instagram so far, then you'll have seen the books posted there. But yeah, I have, again, actually you guys know by now, 6 is like my magic number. So I have 6 books on this seasonal TBR, and that's probably going to be the case for every seasonal TBR going forward, for now, at least. But yeah, I have a bunch of these, and again, I have this color-coded, a different color from the theme TBR, so again, I can track it within my monthly TBRs as the time is going by. And I guess, lucky you guys, I will give you a sneak peek and show you my April TBR because obviously we have a bit going on more here. A bit more going on here. I don't know why I say certain phrases in the wrong order sometimes. Anyways, so yes, again, we have 6 books, but this one, as you can see, is a bit more color-coded. So we have some seasonal TBR books sprinkled within April and 1 book from the themed future episode TBR is also going to be hopefully read within the month of April. And extra section, I actually do have some written down that I actually can get to for the month of April. Yeah, that's pretty much how my TBRs go. Like if you scroll down, the rest of these don't really, there's not much going on there. It's kind of just the same thing. Also, obviously, some of the months that are way later in the year, I haven't written that much. I think the only seasonal TBR that I have almost fully written out is my Christmas TBR. I have a lot of books on there already. I think I only need one more book to complete that. But yeah, a bunch of even my monthly TBRs, I haven't really fleshed out and looked ahead that much. So that's that. I guess. Oh, I also have this section here for like TBR prompts. I have to admit, this is one that I feel like I'm not really gonna use that much the rest of the year. But I had like, just like kind of seasonal ish, I guess, prompts going on for each month. Like just very random, silly ones. Yeah, as you guys can tell, it's a lot to keep track of. I love keeping track of all the books I'm gonna read, and I can't remember if I've noted it in like one of my wrap ups already. How I have been enjoying the TBRs. It's helping me keep me accountable to actually read certain books, because I'm gonna be honest, I probably would just read a lot of romance books still all the time if it were up to me and I purely was just a mood reader. But the TBR, as you can see, it can get a little stressful at times, which is why I have this page to track all of my TBRs. But yeah, obviously there's a lot that could be worked on here. But yeah, anyways, that's what we have for now. So the second page that I want to show you guys here in my Evernote is one that I'm actually pretty personally proud of for making, because as you can see from the title here, this is my series TBR priority tracker. And the reason I made it was because I just didn't have a good way of tracking series and which ones I wanted to start and was in the middle of before. And it's actually funny because I feel like a lot of people don't really track their series well, even if they're reading a lot of them. I feel like from what I've seen, most people literally just keep a note on their phone, just listing out all the series that they're in the middle of, which I think I was doing at one point last year, started doing. But then I realized that I need a better way to track series, especially if I'm going to start more of them, because I think that's kind of one of my, I don't know, like micro sub goals for 2025 is to start and complete more series, because I felt like I am pretty much a standalone girl in terms of books. Because as you guys have heard me say at least once here on the podcast, I am kind of a series commitment phobe. I just do not want to start series that, are super long, which is bad, because even books that are honestly like 4 to 5 books in the series, I do not want to start. If it's a duology, a trilogy, it's more likely that is a series I will actually get around to. But for some reason, when it gets to like the 4 or 5 book mark, and then, if it's way longer than that, like Throne of Glass, for example, I think is at least 7 to 8 books long, I just look at that and I really go, that's not going to happen for a while, or I don't know when I want to start a book series that long, because I don't know, it's just a lot of commitment. It's a long journey that you have to go on, which I know it can be so worth it once you start the journey, but the problem is that I just don't want to start the journey yet. So yeah, I have a bit of that problem. I think that's part of the reason I started making this priority tracker. So I don't know, can try to force myself to start some of those series, hopefully some longer series, in the future. But anyways, let's actually walk through this table that I made. So yeah, this one is, again, it's pretty nice. It's actually probably more organized than my TBR page, because I actually made a table. So as you can see, I just have these different columns. So we have the title, and then we have the number of books. Now for number of books, I think I've only written down number of books that are actually released. So far, like for example, ACOTAR. Obviously, you guys know, there are 5 books out right now, but there is rumored, I don't know if rumored is the right word, there is going to be a 6th book at some point in the future. We don't really know when, I believe as of now. But yeah, since there's only 5 books actually released, that is what I have written down in this column. Some of these series are obviously finished, so the number of books is reflected a bit more accurately, I guess. But yeah, I just keep track. Obviously, I like to keep track of how many books are released or are in the series, so I can prioritize some more. Because let's be honest, like I said, I am highly more likely to read a series that is already completed, that is only 2 to 3 books long, than a series that we are still in the middle of, and there could be like 6, 7 books in the series already, or whatever. So there's that. Reread. Oh yeah, I have I think most of the series I have right now you're gonna see they're gonna be new series for me, but I do have some that I might want to reread in the future, so that's why I made this column. Obviously, actually, you can see Akatar is the only one listed as reread, which it's not really a reread, like of the whole series. I just wrote reread because I want to reread again the first book in that series. So I just marked it as yes, and then yeah, pretty much everything else is marked as no because it's my first time reading a lot of these series that I'm noting down. Oh yeah, and then this finished column is basically for series that have all the books released. This last column that I have in the table, priority, is basically the priority that I want to read this series in. So we have it, and so far I've organized the table to have very lows at the bottom of the table right now, which is probably books that could sit on my TBR for an eternity if I let them. I don't know, they're just not on my radar for some reason. And then obviously low, medium, and then all the way up to high, which are series that I ideally would like to start within this year or the next. And then actually, yeah, besides, I guess, the different columns in this table, I have stuff highlighted, as you can see. So the ones in yellow are basically ones that I'm already in the middle of. So yeah. Although Akatar, I technically haven't started rereading it, so maybe I need to change that one. I mean, I hope I'm going to start within this year and get to rereading the first book, but yeah, we'll see, as always. I have a little list here of series. Sorry, I just want to take a sip of my tea there. Sorry, series that I want to start / finish in 2025. So as you can see, we have a lot written down because obviously there's a bunch down here, fourth wing again, that I want to start, but I haven't yet. So I have all the books written down so far. Actually, if you guys keep up with fantasy, you can tell that I have a lot of duologies that I want to start and complete within this year because, hey, if it's only 2 books, highly likely that I can finish that within the year. Or at least start it. so that, and then, yeah, pretty much I just have the series that I'm in the middle of. I also have listed down here, and I just have each individual book listed out. I don't really know why I have them listed out, TBH, now that I think about it, because they're also in the table and it's noted that I'm in the middle of the series. But I don't know, I just put it in here at the time, just to keep track of how many books I have left. Because sometimes, like Chronicles of Narnia, for example, I'll like low-key forget where I was in the middle of the series and like how many books I read, since it's like a interconnected standalone. So I just have each one written down. So obviously I have the last 3 books in the Narnia series that I have to complete. It's funny because I have like one friend from my church home group who I think she's a big advocate of the Narnia series. It's like one of her beloved series that she likes to go back and reread. So maybe she's a little upset if she is watching and seeing this right now why I haven't finished this, but don't worry, honestly, hopefully I at least finish it by like next year, if not within this year. But yeah, goal will be within this year. Again, I have Akatar written down, which is bad because again, I've said it a million times probably in this episode already, but I still need to reread the first one. So I should probably note that down. But anyways, and then obviously, yeah, we have Magnolia Daisy, which at this current time, unfortunately I haven't started Daisy Hates yet. But actually, if you guys were peeking at the last clip where I was showing my monthly seasonal TBR, you probably saw that pop up on my April TBR. So hopefully that will be coming soon. But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much my series TBR tracker. So I'm going to have to apologize one last time in this episode for yet another switch. In the midst of all the technical difficulties and scrambling to edit and get this episode uploaded on time, I realized I forgot to record an outro. And at this point, it's just way easier to do this by audio only. So please excuse me, guys. But anyways, I really do hope you enjoyed getting to see all my different book tracking apps, hearing about some different features, as well as seeing my own personal notes and systems for keeping track of all the different books and series that I want to read. And personally, I'd love to hear how you guys track your reading, how you get stats, or yeah, again, just keeping track in general of your TBR digitally. And you can feel free to DM me via any of my socials about that. Or if you're watching right now on YouTube, feel free to leave me a comment, which brings me to the point that if you are not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should definitely do that. As like I've said before, I plan on putting out a lot more video content for the podcast this year, and I do already have 1 to 2 videos planned to be released in the month of April. So if you subscribe, you will immediately get notified when I do have uploads. But other than that, just want to say, as always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you back here for episode 30. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you were able to take away something, and be sure to follow the podcast for more bookish content. Until next time, stay fully booked, and I'll talk to you soon.